March Madness is here, and we are down to just 16 teams, and only one of them will claim the national title. Today, we're going to go through all the Sweet 16 matchups and our preview and predictions for these. So, let's get started quickly, as our first game is between Texas and Purdue. Texas is our 11th seeded. They are the only double-digit seed currently in the Sweet 16. Coming from the SEC, they were not playing well coming into the tournament. They got beat by Ole Miss in the SEC tourney. It was questionable if they were going to get in. They did get in the first four. Took down NC State on a game winner. Beat BYU with a big clutch shot, and they beat Gonzaga with a clutch shot. So Texas has been clutch in getting some massive wins. We usually do a first four teams that make it to the Sweet 16, and Texas was this year's team, so that is great for them. And Purdue, on the other hand, coming off of a round of 32 win, which was their seventh consecutive win in that round, took down Miami. Miami gave them a handful. They had a great game plan. Forced Braden Smith a career high 8 turnovers. Now, Braden doesn't usually have 2 bad games in a row, so he very well might answer and have a big game responding to it. Another big headline with this one, Camden Heide with the game sealing 3 against Gonzaga was with Purdue the last 2 years. He will be playing against Purdue in the Sweet 16 with a trip to the Elite Eight on the line. I think these teams are pretty evenly matched, but I think Purdue is just a little more talented, so I'm going to roll with the Boilermakers on this one. Next one, we've got Iowa and Nebraska. I'm going in order of when the games are happening, just so it's easier to, it just makes sense. Iowa took down Florida. They weren't doing that great coming into the tournament, had just lost to Ohio State, but they did take Nebraska to overtime to end the regular season, and they almost beat Michigan on their senior day, only lost by 3. So they found a way to get to the Sweet 16. They took down Clemson in the round of 32. Then they beat Florida, the 1 seed in the, did I say round of 32? Whatever. They beat Clemson round of 64. They beat Florida in the round of 32. Alvaro Folgueras had the game-winning 3. You can go check out our YouTube shorts after, and I have the quick highlights on there for the last few plays of how Iowa reached their first Sweet 16 since 1999. Nebraska has gotten to the Sweet 16. First time they've ever been there. They dominated Troy, and then they had a great ending at the end against Vanderbilt. You can go check out the shorts after this video as well. But we've got a rematch. The first time they played, Iowa won 57-52 in Iowa City. The second time, Nebraska kind of choked a little bit, gave up some big shots, went to overtime, and ended up getting the job done. So the Huskers might not want to play Iowa again. They knew that Iowa was ready for them both times, but they're still probably the better team. I don't know who to roll with on this one, but I'm probably going to roll for Iowa because I think their coaching's a little bit better. They have a little bit more size to them, and Bennett Starks also played terrible. I don't expect him to play against Florida. Bennett Starks played terrible and they still won. I don't expect him to play that bad again. So he did not have a great game and they still got the job done. So I'm rolling with Iowa on this one. Next, we've got Arizona and Arkansas. Utah State gave Arizona a run for their money. It was close. I think it was within 4 in the second half late. And I was like, wow, maybe Purdue's going to get a really easy trip to the Final Four. Not with Arkansas. Arkansas's not easy, but I thought, who knows, maybe we're going to be the favorite. But no, Arizona was able to hold on as Krivos just got so many rebounds. They may have doubled Utah State on the glass. Like, it was insane domination, and Arkansas is going to need to rebound to have a chance. Like, you can have Acuff go hit a bunch of shots, but your defense, if you can't stop Arizona inside whenever they miss, you're not going to win because then they get so many chances. And even if you're more efficient than them, they get more opportunities and they'll still win. I'll roll with Arizona on this one, but if Acuff is Acuff, then if Acuff goes off, Arkansas can win. Houston and Illinois. This one is exciting. It is in Houston, and people have been very high on the Cougars because they will be in their home city. They're technically not the host. If they're the host, they wouldn't be allowed to play there, but instead Rice is the host because it's like that. Illinois with Keaton Wagler, Houston with Kingston Flemings. Now, if Flemings isn't doing much, Houston's offense is pretty bad. And I think Illinois has the size to deal with Houston on the inside and be able to rebound. So I'm going to go with the Illini on this one because usually Houston dominates inside, but Illinois got this. They have so much height. I think they're the tallest team in the country. I'm going to go with the Illini on this one. Duke and St. John's. Now, St. John's was controlling that Kansas game until Kansas came back and it took a buzzer beater to win. But a win against Kansas in the round of 32 is a win against Kansas in the round of 32. So I've been thinking St. John's could take down Duke. I think St. John's is so underseeded. Like, they're 5 seed. They're 30-6. They've lost one time since January 3rd. Like, they've been such a good team, and they're seeded a 5 seed. We could see this upset easily happening. Like, I think I had them in Kansas swap with Kansas as the 5 and St. John's as the 4. But St. John's didn't really get any key wins in the regular season other than UConn twice, and UConn's a fraud. That's just my opinion. So I'm going to roll with Duke as long as they can not let it get out of hand in the first half, because they let the Siena game kind of get out of their control, but Siena was just wildly worse than them, so they were able to win. But you get down 11 to St. John's, you're facing better coaching, so you might not get it done that time. I'm still going to roll Duke, though. I think they will. It'll be close. Maybe they'd be losing the first half, but I think the second half is going to be when they get it done. Maybe something might have just splashed there. But Michigan and Alabama. Alabama just destroyed Texas Tech. They beat them by 25. They beat Hofstra by 20 after being down by 9 in the first half. So, yeah, they can rain threes, but is it going to be enough to beat Michigan? A lot of people are high on Michigan. I think they're the championship favorites now, but they like to play down to their competition. So no matter what, it's going to be close at some point. Like, St. Louis was close with them until the last 10 minutes because they can just go on 15-0, 16-0 scoring runs, and it's very fast as well. So you cannot let the game get away from you against Michigan. But Alabama, they can hit a bunch of threes. So even though they don't have Aiden Holloway, they can still hit shots that could help them win. Still, I'm going to go with Michigan because their defense is just better than Alabama's. Alabama's defense is pretty bad, and I don't think their threes will be enough to take down the Wolverines, especially with the big 3 big men they have. Yaxel is the 3, Big Ten Player of the Year. Morez Johnson is the 4. He's inconsistent, but he can still be really good. And Adai Mara is the 5, and he's just a baby. He gets all the calls, but it's fine. It is what it is. It's not fine. It shouldn't be. UConn and Michigan State. I've been down on UConn for a very long time. It was once they started getting those scares, like when they almost lost to Providence, when they almost lost to Georgetown. I know I'm saying almost, but still, these are not good signs for March Madness. They're playing Michigan State, who has Jeremy Fears Jr., the nation's leader in assists per game. Averages 15.5 points a game, 9.1 assists a game. So we should expect to see some good basketball from him. He scores or assists on most of Michigan State's points. UConn, on the other hand, struggled with UCLA. You could say they might have lost without Tyler Bilodeau. No, if UCLA had Tyler Bilodeau, but they had Demery on minutes restriction as well. So they still won, but they were challenged. They were down in the second half. They won by 16, but I don't know. I'm going to go with the Spartans because they just have not looked as bad and fraudulent as UConn has over the last 10 weeks. Like, it has been a very long stretch where UConn hasn't looked good. They had a 32-point win over St. John's, but that was just because St. John's shooting was awful. And lastly, Iowa State and Tennessee. Cyclones have been without Joshua Jefferson for a while. But they not a while. Why am I saying that? I don't even know what I'm saying. They've been out without him from about almost 2 games. They were able to take away a 12-point deficit against Kentucky, and they turned it into a 20-point win, something like that. I think it was 18. But they were able to get control and win that game. It was great resilience. Tamin Lipsey had an incredible game. And Mila Momcilovic, Nate Heisey, these guys just stepped up when they needed to. But they're going to go to the Final Four. They're going to need Jefferson because he's just a big part of their team. I think they can take down Tennessee. It's great that they have the last game. They're going to have a bunch of rest. I'm pretty sure there's going to be, because today's Monday, their game's on Friday. They'll have 6 more days of rest until Jefferson will need to play. So maybe he'll be fine. I think it's just like he rolled his ankle, but he's in like a scooter. Hopefully he's okay. And Tennessee got a big win over Miami, Ohio, got a big win over Virginia as well. Jacoby Gillespie hit some big shots for the Vols. Their inside was much better than Virginia's, clearly. I don't know if they're going to be able to do that against Iowa State. So I am rolling with Iowa State. But thank you so much for watching. I'm so excited to watch the rest of March Madness with you guys. See you later, and boiler up.